Welcome back, Red Spotters. Listening to the Red Spotlight podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. Peter Martinez. And we're here getting all into the jams these days. We got two jams to talk about. Come on and slam. We're talking about Space Jam: A New Legacy, the second film, the new one out in theaters right now. And then also, we'll be talking about the first original movie back, 25 years ago in 1996, which, interestingly enough, I believe would be the very first discussion this podcast has had regarding Space Jam in, 7 seasons now? 7 years of podcasting, and this is the first time this comes up. If not, maybe before we've discussed it when it was announced, like 5 years ago when they announced the movie was being made, but we never actually discussed the original film or the legacy that it has or whatever. So we'll be discussing that, as well as Peter's thoughts on the Loki finale or the series overall. But if you want to catch a more in-depth analysis, or the best in-depth analysis on this network, it is the best in-depth because the other two, this will not be in-depth, and the Fantasy Fair reviews will not be in-depth, but that won't stop them from talking about it. Speaking of which, the Fantasy Fair podcast next time, we'll talk about Loki, Black Widow, and Kyle Lira's, let me get this plug in, and Kyle Lira's latest trip to Disneyland. But here on Red Spotlight, David, Francisco, and I have been diligently at work recapping all of the episodes on a week-to-week basis, as we have with all of the Marvel shows that came beforehand. So those are our plugs. Now it's time for Peter's commentary on all of what I just said.
I would argue a quick review for me is more in-depth than an entire series from Alexis J. Soto.
Thank you for voicing your opinion. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, that was it.
Okay. That is going to be our show here on Red Spotlight number 340.
Jesus.
We're 10
Who
away
listens to these?
I don't know.
God.
We just had our 300th, year. Yesterday. And now we're getting to 350. Just like that. So yeah, as a reminder, you can listen to our podcasts anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, CastBox, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, anywhere, every single Sunday and sometimes on Thursdays, although Thursdays for perhaps less often now since we have no series to recap, and we may not have that for quite some time. The next episode I'm hoping that we will do will be recapping the Fear Street trilogy that has just concluded on Netflix, 1994, 1978, and 78?
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
right.
And then 1666. Netflix just concluded a 3-week movie event, and people have received it quite well. I have seen the first one. Peter has seen all of them. And once I have seen the next two, we will come back and talk about them. I disappointed Mr. Martinez because I think he hoped that we would be discussing them today, but it turns out I had other things to see, like the original Space Jam, like Space Jam 2, like Loki, and all
of which
things.
I saw as well, so there should be no excuses.
Well, somebody is a little bitter about the fact that we're doing a Space Jam episode today and not Fear Street.
Now I'm ready to jam. Bring on the slam.
And then there are other movies that are coming out, like that. At some point,
actually quite a bit. Yeah.
Right, there are other films that at some point I think we're gonna have to talk about. M. Night Shyamalan, amazingly enough, has a new movie out this week. It's called Old. He loves his one-word titles, and that's coming out. We don't know how that's gonna go yet. The embargo has not lifted. Also, Snake Eyes is coming out this week, I believe. Right?
Maybe.
Okay,
I
this
assume.
week or whatever. But next week, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt return to the big screen for Jungle Cruise, which apparently Kyle Lira informed me that Disneyland is having the world premiere for the Jungle Cruise film this coming Saturday.
Oh. Good for them.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we've just got reviews on Black Widow. We just did one last week. Fantasy Fair will get through all of that in their time, of course. So, I don't believe we have anything that much to go over in terms of what we saw this week. We all know what we saw this week. So we'll go ahead and skip that. And let's get into Loki. Judging by Peter's remarks earlier at the top, it would seem fair to assume that he hasn't heard a single word as far as my thoughts regarding Loki or the finale or the season. So I may have to regurgitate a lot of those lines because he doesn't care to listen to those other shows. But as is the case, let us start.
Spin-offs, if you will.
Sure. Let us go ahead and start off with this. Peter, your thoughts on Loki?
Well, since it is a film, I guess I should.
We're not having this discussion again.
Loki.
Listen, look, every
Loki's
single installment,
has
it
come.
has six episodes
After
here.
sealing
6
the
episodes.
Tesseract
Explain
during
this
the
to me,
events
how
of
every
Avengers
single
Endgame,
installment
an
starts off
alternate
with
version
previously
of Loki
on.
is brought to
What
the
other
mysterious
movie have you seen that
Time-Variance
starts off with a
Authority,
recap of the previous chapter that
bureaucratic
came before? That
organization
is
that
a
exists
trope
outside
of
of time and
television.
space
It is
and
a
monitors the
television
timeline.
series, and it has been confirmed
give
to
Loki
have
a
a
choice.
second season
Space being
that has
erased from
already been in
existence
development
due to
and will
being a
come
time
at some
variant,
point, and
or
the
help
cast
fix
is
the
coming back
timeline
and
and stop
ended on
a
a
greater
cliffhanger.
threat.
How many classic television tropes does it have to have for it to be considered a television show? It is that. It will forever be that. Stop spreading misinformation.
So that was the synopsis of the film Loki.
It's not a movie. The fact that Letterboxd has it on there is a sham. I have seen a lot of people on film Twitter complain about that. That is, it's just a complete...
Twitter complained about it. Oh
yeah, that's a very cheap shot. I'm not just saying that some rando people on Twitter, like some actual, accredited people who have meaning behind the words that they use, that have actual backup behind them, have been complaining. It's not right for them to do that. Especially since these are
some
TV
people
shows.
Are saying, some people are
It's not some people are saying. It's actual people that exist that actually have meaningful intellect in this space that we occupy. Not some randos that you're trying to just dismiss as if they were nothing.
So what did I think about Loki the film? As far as that last part at the end there.
You mean the last episode, which is the finale of this season 1, when it'll come back for season 2.
For the sequel, okay.
The sequel is actually Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That's an actual movie. What we're talking about here is a TV show.
So yes, they did come out and say that Loki
By the way,
will have
these
a sequel.
lists that I keep seeing, this is the thing. When you ask this question, I think yes to me, when WandaVision ended, when Falcon and Winter Soldier ended, about like, where would you compare this to the movies? I'm not having that conversation. That is a non-starter. These blasphemous lists that I'm seeing all over film Twitter of people's Letterboxd accounts with WandaVision posters and Loki posters next to the movies, I'm not having it. We're not having this discussion ever. It is a lie.
It's a film.
It's not. It clearly isn't.
Looking at the third act,
all the shows are up for Emmy Awards. It's the Television Academy. WandaVision was just nominated for 23 Emmy Awards, not Oscars.
So if the Emmys say it, it's true.
Actually, no. The Red Spotlight Network took a vote late last winter, and you were outruled. and outvoted.
It never even came to a vote.
No, it did. Kyle Lira, Alexis Moreno voted against you. It happened.
It never even came to a vote.
Stop lying.
Letterboxd is the authority on what is a film and what isn't.
It really
Clearly
isn't.
It's a film.
It's not.
It's
Do you consider the Mariah Carey Christmas special that was on
Yes.
Apple TV Plus a movie?
Yes.
You consider the Coco music TV special that was on Disney
Yes.
Plus a movie?
Yes.
I don't.
Okay, you're wrong. It's fine to be wrong. Loki. I don't appreciate how you've completely derailed this
I
conversation.
don't appreciate how you have continued to just do this out of pure spite. How many times does a person have to be told they're wrong?
I mean, I tell it to you constantly. It never gets through. I don't know. So
Except you
Loki.
act on bad faith arguments. That's the problem.
I mean, you haven't been able to refute them yet. So.
I just did several times. Just because you don't acknowledge the fact that it's been refuted doesn't mean that it actually didn't happen.
Refuting is just saying people disagree.
I'm saying I disagree, and I proved why you're wrong.
So Loki. Pray tell, what did you think of Loki?
Loki, in the series overall, or this last bit?
Let's go with last bit.
Overall, as well, damn.
You
kind of,
I said last bit that you say overall.
well, damn, you threw me off, The last episode I found to be good, but I was baffled by the praise that it was being bestowed all throughout many different people's takes. The word masterpiece was used. Best thing ever done, best thing in the MCU. And I'm talking about just the finale. It's not an analysis overall of people's takes on the show itself, but just the finale. I found the finale, well, it was a good episode of TV, but it just felt like it left too much up in the air to be a satisfying conclusion to this season. And I have issues in terms of, I guess, what could occur. My overall feelings is I'm not really that convinced. Well, not convinced. I know Jonathan Majors is a great actor. I know that the character he was playing, Kang, has many different interpretations. This particular interpretation I wasn't crazy about. I kind of felt like the episode more or less served as a monologue of exposition dump, which, while not boring, I don't think really added all that much to, I guess, what most of us kind of thought was happening. The most exciting stuff that really happened in this episode was the climax and the turn with Loki and Sylvia's relationship. That scene was beautiful. And a lot of things that were left up in the air, it seemingly suggests that they're going to be primarily dealt with in the movie, not so much the show. And I don't know how to feel about that. They're not positive thoughts about that at this point. As a finale, look, I loved the show, honestly. It was exciting week to week. I wasn't really crazy about episode 5. I thought it was great in places. There were great moments.
You mean 6?
5, the one that came before 6, I mean.
Oh.
I mean, so basically I was on board basically 100% all the way up through the first 4 episodes. Episode 5 felt a bit rushed to me. And then episode 6, it seems like nothing was really resolved, and it didn't really feel like a finale to me. It just felt like another installment, and everything was just left up in the air. Yes, there are cliffhangers, but with cliffhangers and finales, there are also some storylines, some threads that come together at the end for some kind of resolution. None of that really happened. And and then mixing that with the fact that people were bowing down and calling this like did you see the crazy things that Grace Randolph was on her ass about? Like, this is one of those episodes that you want to say you this is where you were when it happened. She literally no seriously, the words masterpiece, best thing MCU's ever done, better than all the movies. Because the show doesn't
matter to them. It's about like, this is the new Thanos,
right?
This is the new thing to obsess over,
and that's what bugged me over
them for the next decade.
Yeah,
that's what they care about.
Somebody take account of how many times the word bugs or bug said in this episode. There may be a record, but what bugged me, and I say that because of Space Jam, if it didn't click for those who are listening. But with this thing, it just felt like the same thing that always happens. It's like anything that expands the lore, and it was all an exposition dump, and it was all about like, the reveals or this here and that there. It's like this episode had people eating out of the palm of its hand so easily, and that really turns me off. On top of the fact that I don't understand what the shock value really was. All of this we realized was happening because there was a film that was literally called The Multiverse of Madness. There was a show not a few weeks ago where every episode was like people speculating on, is this when Wanda is going to open the multiverse? And then when this episode happens and they announce, the multiverse, I guess, actually breaks, and people are like, oh my God, I never could have seen that coming. Kevin Feige is the savior and lord of our existence. Thank God that he is the smartest person to have ever walked the face of the earth when it comes to movies. He can do no wrong. Yay! Fuck that attitude. Fuck that energy. It really turns me off, honestly. Those are my complicated feelings on that.
It's like people just ingest this shit just to be able to say, I knew it. But the only reason you knew it is because of the endless YouTube channels.
Yeah.
That like point you, like half the people that are like, oh my God, it's Kang the Conqueror, had no idea who Kang the Conqueror was when this show first started. I feel like the majority had no idea who the fuck he was, right?
No.
And it's so weird when people are like, oh my God, it's this character. Why are you pretending like you give a fuck? You have no idea who this character is. Right? But it's just this idea of like, it existed. It's this one thing. It's a reference. Just the idea that it's a reference just makes people lose their shit. Yeah. And I think it's very telling that the same people that lost their shit and said episode 3's boring and slow and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And it took 40 minutes of exposition dump and went like, brilliant. It's perfection.
Yeah, honestly, it's aged not the best way, even a week after having seen this episode, because when you think about it, it was just a vehicle for Jonathan Majors to monologue.
It's the fucking worst. I'm gonna come in here and say this, and this is the thing. Up until that point, I was like, I love Loki.
Yeah.
The show. I was like, this is the best thing. I think it's great, especially episode 5. I know you felt it was a little rushed. I loved it.
It was still
There's
great.
So much awesome shit.
Richard E. Grant screaming at the top of his lungs, glorious purpose, as Eliath was about to kill him, was beautiful.
All I could think of while watching Black Widow was, I wish I could have seen Loki episode 5 on the big screen. Sorry.
Well, it was better.
Sorry. It was so much
It was better.
Yeah. Just this weird, fucked up world. It's just so much weird, goofy shit being thrown constantly in that episode with Alligator Loki, and then that fight with the Lokis.
Yeah.
And it's zany and fun, but also heartfelt. I'm like, fuck, this shit's good. It's genuine. Oh, God. This is the shit I want from the MCU. And then they just had to stop and go like, but remember, we're still the MCU. And then just, that's what this was, right? It's so weird because the entire show
real quick this is he'll never listen to, I don't even know why I'm bothering to soften the blow here, But Kyle.
Kevin Feige?
Kyle.
I was like, what
the fuck? Of course, Kevin Feige will never listen to this. But I'm talking about Kyle. And this is not to take away his experience or his joy from watching the episode. Mm-hmm. But like his initial reaction, because we all have the group chat, was like, I'm shaking. And I'm like, at what? There were so many tweets that were like, I can't believe they did that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What really happened? Like, what? Like, the one thing I can think of was like, oh, the thing that you knew was already going to happen, that was already in motion, that had been countless interviews, announcements, articles, theories written about it. Like, did you, come on. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just like, from the very beginning, everything about Loki was just working for me so well, right? I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it hit this last bit, and it's just, forget everything, drop everything, and this is now a commercial, a preview for the MCU moving forward,
particularly for two movies.
That's basically, yeah. But I have a feeling, and I do think this is the reason why people are so excited about it, that Kang himself and maybe even more of his variants are going to be the main focal point. In the same way Thanos was, Kang will be. That's what I think.
And it just reminds you, wait a minute, I just forgot about the fact that Marvel Phase 4 is all about this multiverse shit. And I just remembered, I hate everything I'm hearing about it. Great.
Yeah, like, I feel I am gonna dislike this new Spider-Man movie like Mandalorian Season 2 levels.
Wow.
And people are gonna love it Mandalorian Season 2 levels. Like, that's gonna annoy the fuck out of me. And it's gonna cement that this new Spider-Man, what a fucking joke. Never given the opportunity to just be his own character. Have his own world. What a massive, massive disappointment. But going back to these shows have just been such a godsend for the MCU, and it reminded me of that after I saw Black Widow, because Black Widow, even though Black Widow was supposed to be a more personal, less interconnected film, it was still like, fuck, this is boring. Like, this is so been here, done that, and it just like, oh, like WandaVision, for all its issues, like, there was some interesting, fun stuff there. For all the issues with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they were able to tackle stuff that I don't think they ever would have in the films. You know how I know? They didn't in Black Widow. Yes, I'm saying it. They tackled that shit much more directly, I think, in Falcon and the Winter Soldier than even their most forward-thinking Marvel film, which was Black Panther. And then with Loki, it was reaching top 5 favorite thing going on in the MCU. And if you just kind of say like, wow, Loki ended on a cliffhanger after 5 episodes, then maybe it could stay there. But yeah, just the last one, it's just, to be fair, they are gonna, unlike Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, there is going to be more. So I guess you can go like, well, the story technically isn't wrapped up yet, right? So there is that opening to go, take a chill pill, as far as like, because it's not like it's over and the ending is just they will go forward and there will be more the story of Loki. Unlike Falcon and the Winter Soldier in WandaVision, where it's this is the story, right? And even though if you see the character in other things, like this is the story, so the wrap up needs to wrap up this story. Here, the story is going to continue, so you can at least say like, okay, it's not over.
Here's the question I have for David. Mm-hmm. Can you jump straight to Loki season 2 whenever that happens without having seen Spider-Man, Doctor Strange 2, and not feel lost? Because that's where I'm coming from. That's the issue I have.
True. That's very true.
And in the past week, I do believe that has been reported that Tom Hiddleston is going to have a role in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That's the problem I have.
True. Yeah.
It's like, it's one, like, yes, we're going to get the next chapter that left off with this cliffhanger. But is season 2 really going to be about those things? And can you watch it? And because they technically wouldn't the next quote unquote chapter of this character or this whatever's happening here be with what's happening in the movies, which is the main multiverse, especially since now I don't know if it's been announced, but at this point it seems that Jonathan Majors is going to be in those films since they are involving multiverse.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know if he himself will be in it.
It has not been announced. Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of people might not fully understand who Kang is.
Yeah.
The simplest way of explaining Kang is he's a dark and serious Rick Sanchez.
Yeah. Okay.
There's literally a council of the Kangs. Sort of like the Council of Ricks.
That's what I thought when he was explaining it, honestly. The Council of Ricks.
Yeah. He's literally this super genius from the future that travels through time and has technology. Like, he's literally Rick Sanchez.
Yeah.
But just...
different personality.
Yeah, dark and serious Rick Sanchez. That's basically what he is. Yeah, that's worrying, right? For what's going on when we come back to Loki. Shit.
See, that's where those concerns were coming from. It's like, it's a different situation altogether. It's like, because that also brings us back to our original concern with the Marvel Disney Plus shows in general, before we even had WandaVision, was, okay, our original concern was, were these shows and these individual stories going to have their conclusion on the show, or would that inevitable conclusion happen in the films? And at least for the first 2 shows, that wasn't so much an issue. Here, we have a much more open-ended direction.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's that thing, it's one of those things where if you just want to go back and watch Loki, it could really fuck it up, right? And
another thing to add on here, in case people weren't aware, Michael Waldron is the main writer for the Loki series. He's also the co-writer, along with Sam Raimi, of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
So you know a lot of that shit is going to be similar, right? Or it's going to have a lot of the same flavor.
Yeah.
As far as the exact rules and going-ons of the madness of the multiverse, so to speak. Yeah. I found the ending disappointing, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like the conclusion, even to this story that we've gotten so far.
It doesn't it? It feels like we introduced something else.
We've just completely stopped and went, here's a commercial for phase 4 and maybe beyond. That's all it feels like. And sure, you have that moment where it's like, oh, betrayal between Loki and Sylvie. But even that, I felt, was a little weak sauce. I like the fight. You got the kiss. You got the big kiss. And by the way, fuck, is this music good?
It is.
The music when they kiss, it's such an old fashioned like heroic love theme that goes on. Like, it's so good. I really love it. I know shit. I was reading articles about the woman who composed the
Natalie
music.
Holt. Natalie Holt is the composer. I have her soundtrack on my Apple Music playlist saved because it is that good for the show.
She's such an MVP. Like the Loki theme. It's awesome. It's awesome. She's gonna have bright and beautiful future career. At least I hope so, because this shit slaps, as the kids say. It's this. You know what's so hard about third acts failing, as they'll say, or at least endings sucking, is that's what's left in the taste of your mouth, right? Because everyone always says like it's all about how the story ends. You can kind of suck in the beginning, it gets like in the middle, but if you bring it around at the end, you'll have people going like, all right, that was good, right? Like, people much rather have a really awesome ending and a sucky to so beginning and middle than the other way around. Psychologically, it just seems to work out that way. So I struggle with my feelings on Loki overall because it is really good, right? And even the last episode, it's not bad. Like, I really like Jonathan Majors, right? I think he's cool. I like kooky Jonathan Majors. The man at the end of time. That kind of stuff is neat, right? Like, I think this whole man at the end of time, weird, fucked up, a Wizard of Oz type shit going on could work if it wasn't just if it wasn't just literally just a commercial for the rest of the MCU, right?
For all the bitching that has been made this past week about certain films or TV shows being like this big commercial for something, it seems like maybe this one got off a little easy compared to the other thing.
The other thing was infinitely more blatant. Even
I mean, it was blatant, like, but this doesn't excuse what this is either.
It doesn't, but I will say it made me appreciate Marvel's subtleness. And I never would have called Marvel subtle in the past with their bullshit. But it made me go like, in comparison, Marvel has a very fine touch. But no, and then also the thing that just doesn't make me as excited for the continuation of the story is the whole Mobius and all of them completely forgot who Loki was type stuff.
Let me tell you this. You're going on a path that I absolutely can follow. Borrowing a line from Padme, though. She comes up every now and then. When I saw that interaction happen at the end of the episode, I was legitimately thrown off and confused because I recognized that Mobius and Hunter B-15 were acting very different, and they didn't seem to recognize who Loki was. And then I guess there was this, I think Dan Murrell called it a Tim Burton Planet of the Apes ending. Or just
it really was.
Or a real Planet of the Apes ending where it's like you see Kang's statue now at the TVA. It took me a couple of seconds to register what exactly had happened. And the more I thought about it, the more I felt really not cool with that. Because if the implication is, in fact, that Mobius and B-15 have been completely erased, we're basically starting from square one. And the relationship dynamics that, the show did such a great job of selling you on, and the friendships between Loki and Mobius just completely were thrown away. And now we're starting over again.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It feels like a really cheap way of, we've gone as far as we can exploring this relationship, so let's find a way to bring it back down to zero so we can do it all over again.
It's like what The Good Place does, but not good.
Yeah. Yeah, but remember, that's why I was so worried about the season 2 of A Good Place, where it's like, oh god, because it makes it seem like, okay, we had the initial idea, we would run its course, and now it's gonna be a variation of just doing that again, right? But that wasn't it with The Good Place. It was actually, they did some interesting things. Maybe that'll happen here, right? But it does make me just a little apprehensive. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't get me excited, right?
No.
If there was a cliffhanger, this makes you go like, oh my gosh, I want to see what happens next. It just kind of makes me go like, I don't know. Yeah. Nothing really grabbed me about like, oh gosh, I want to see what happens next. At the end of episode 5, I was like, yes, I very much want to see what happens next. What's going on? What's this? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, overall, I loved Loki. I did. It's just, and maybe it's that 1-2 punch of like Black Widow and then this last bit of Loki.
That was a bad 1-2 punch. It really was.
Yeah. Where it just it kind of kicks me down to where I was before with the MCU, where it's like, even when you guys, this is what really grinds my gears about Marvel, and I've talked about this before. It's even when it starts off awesome and unique, they always have to bring it around in the third act to go like, but we're still Marvel, right? And it's just like, it feels like either it starts off completely the entire time being generic Marvel, and in which case it's like, okay, I'll have fun, but that's generic Marvel, or it's unique and awesome. You're like, this is unique and awesome, I love it, but then it finds its way worming back to being Marvel.
Black Widow had an amazing start, and then 20 minutes later, we're back to where we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and it's just, it annoys me.
Yeah.
Right? It gets annoying that it does that. But as far as overall, I still really like Loki.
Yeah.
I do. It had so much good stuff. It had some of my favorite stuff in all of Marvel. And it was consistently good, and just till that last episode, which again wasn't bad. It's not bad.
No.
It's just we're just no longer Loki now. we're setting up everything else.
Yeah, and it seems like another one of the trends that I kept seeing was that, far and away, Loki finale, did it. They finally pulled off a finale that works and is completely satisfactory. And I'm like, no, as amazing as it is, like, all based on how consistent the quality of the show was, all indication was leading to a point where maybe Loki could have had the best finale of this season in comparison to its two predecessors, primarily speaking. But David and I were like, at the end of our conversation, man, it was kind of the weakest one. It really was. And the other two have a lot of problems. But they brought it around at the end to a place that was good, despite its weaknesses, despite its flaws. This didn't have that. It just kind of all around hit the pause button and either we'll get back to you in a year or two or watch the movies to see what happens next. And here's the thing: here's what Kevin Feige said, the particular wording of what he has said several times, and that is, you will never have to watch the TV shows to understand the films. But what he hasn't said, and what I am curious about is, do you have to watch the movies to understand what happens in the TV shows?
That was never even a question before, right? Because before it was just one and done.
Yeah.
But now that we're coming back, then it's like, well, now it's a question. But for other people, they don't care. The more interconnected it is, the better. At this point, I don't think people would even care whether anything tells a defining story, right? I think most people would want one scene to begin in one film and then end in another film, right? Is just to make it that more interconnected. They want to be able to just cut together a 52-hour long film saga. That's what they want. And they self-contained stories. They'll roll with it, but it's nothing gets them going. Like,
look at how Marvel fans reacted to the brilliant first 2 episodes of WandaVision. Do I have to remind you guys? It had no connections. There weren't any Easter eggs. It didn't. There were stories. Yay.
Yeah.
But notice when their interest came back up, the episode that featured Wanda and Vision the least, and the one that opened up with the snap happening. I wonder why that was a lot of people's favorites.
Because it's all about the big picture. I used to always say this about Star Wars fans, but it is true of Marvel fans too. It feels like they don't want storytelling, they want Wikipedia articles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They want to be able to say, this was connected to this, and then this happened, which influenced this, and then this character that you all know jumped in and did this. And yeah. I know a lot of people would have been disappointed, but, well, no, you know what? That's not even true. I was going to say I would have dug a Loki variant being the one at the end, but it really didn't have to be. Mm-hmm. I think having this, man at the end of time, just this random dude, that works too. It's just when the whole episode is just expedition dump and setup for other feature films, it's kind of lame. Yeah, because I was following this story. But yeah.
And now it's done. And that's that. You mentioned Mandalorian earlier beforehand. Season 2 of The Mandalorian. I said this in the last podcast with David. Amongst our group here, it is regarded as one of the weakest written seasons of television ever witnessed. Particularly and especially from a writing perspective. Did you know, Peter, that The Mandalorian was tied as the most nominated TV show by the Television Academy? 24 nominations, even more than the 23 WandaVision received. Did you know that?
WandaVision received 23?
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you?
Please, be honest with me.
That means nothing.
Of course it means nothing.
As far as I'm concerned, yeah. In comparison to Don Cheadle being nominated for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it, yeah. It was a joke. But it was going to happen.
Was it?
No.
Was it really?
The fact that they happened tells me exactly the only reason these shows are even in the discussion or even being nominated was because it was the platform that they were on, which is Disney Plus, because they're popular. Never before this year did any of these shows get into categories like this.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. But it's still mind-boggling, right? Because you can look at something like The Mandalorian getting 500,000 nominations and go like, well, a lot of people loved it. Fine. Okay. Not my cup of tea. Don Cheadle literally pops up. I think someone saw his total time was like 98 seconds. He literally pops up, says, "What's good?" And then that's it. He doesn't even act. He probably drove in for half an hour, did his scene real quick, and then drove off, right? Cashed his check and went on with his life. He probably even forgot he was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And he gets a nomination for that? Like, that to me, more than The Mandalorian, more than anything else, just explicitly tells me, not only are these nominations bullshit, I don't think people are watching these shows when they nominate them.
No, it's not in their taste either. They don't like these kind of shows. They're just doing it because they're popular. The Mandalorian, really 24 nominations? Really? Really? The Emmys. That's the equivalent of the Academy nominating any Star Wars movie for 10 nominations.
Yeah.
Which hasn't happened, by the way, with good reason. Those films, they don't see. And if they do see, they're only nominated for the technical awards. Right?
Every once in a while, they'll vote for shit and they'll nominate shit where it's like, they didn't watch it, but they heard it was good or they heard it was popular in a certain way. And they're like, okay, they're going to throw this bone over here and they'll nominate it, right? But I've never seen something as blatant as with that Don Cheadle situation.
Is Cobra Kai a comedy show?
It's comedic. I wouldn't categorize it as a comedy show.
It was nominated for Outstanding Comedy Series. Alongside the likes of Ted Lasso, Blackish, and yeah. So it ain't, I guess, a comedy show.
I'm pretty sure, you tell me, I'm pretty sure Ted Lasso is definitively a comedy. Yeah. I know Blackish is definitively a comedy. Yeah. I would never consider Cobra Kai as definitively a comedy. But that's weird.
The nominees for the drama series were The Boys, Bridgerton, The Crown, The Handmaid's Tale, Lovecraft Country, which was apparently canceled for some reason. Speaking of Jonathan Majors, I believe. And then also Pose and The Mandalorian.
Like, I think the Oscars are trash, but the Emmys are... What's lower than trash? I don't know.
Dumpster fire?
They're that then, I guess. But it's also funny. I can't tell you how much I laughed when I saw that.
I didn't laugh. I was angry.
I did.
Still angry. It's a fucking joke. Oh no, they didn't.
What?
Damn. The Mandalorian got a nomination in one of the 4 major acting categories.
For who? Pedro Pascal?
Yeah, sure, no. Giancarlo Esposito nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series.
She didn't act!
Giancarlo Esposito Just be.
Oh, I
not
thought
Gina
you said,
Carano. No, I was like, no, not
Gina Carano. Oh, Giancarlo Esposito. Okay, that makes sense.
Because he's popular and they like him, but he was nominated.
He's popular.
They nominated him last year for Best Guest Actor in a Drama Series for this role. And so he's nominated again for Best Supporting Actor in a role for the same...
Is the Emmys just like the biggest front to try and get the voters to hang out with rich and famous people? Like, I'm nominating you for best hair. Come to our party. Tom Cruise. Like, by the way, he's a lame fucking villain.
It was awful. He was awful.
There was nothing to him. He showed up and was like, I am Giancarlo Esposito and I am evil. And people ate that shit up. But at least there, it's like, okay, he was in more than one episode, and he's doing his usual thing.
It appears I was mistaken. You didn't mention who else was nominated alongside Don Cheadle for Best Guest Actor in a Drama Series. Timothy Olyphant was also nominated for The Mandalorian in the first episode of Season 2. And Carl Weathers was also nominated as Best Guest Actor in a Drama Series.
I guess, man.
I'm just, honestly, I'm beyond infuriated. I am so beyond infuriated. You know how many better genre shows there are than this trash, and then this gets fucking recognition?
But better options, too. You know who did a great guest appearance, technically, quote unquote? Carl Lumbly. From The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Evidently, the rules was that he appeared in too many episodes to be considered a guest spot. Like, yeah, those were the rules.
Oh my god. Esposito was in probably the same amount of episodes.
That's what I don't understand. That's what's really sketch to me. Like, Esposito...
They're so full
actually,
of shit.
Esposito... Okay, the rules for guest actor is... There's a limit on episodes, but he wasn't nominated for guest actor. He was nominated for supporting actor.
Oh, that's true.
Oliphant and Weathers had much more
true.
limited screen time or episodes.
That is true. Okay. You know who deserves a nomination and he'll probably get it then? Is classic Loki.
He's great. Honestly, he was great in this. Here. I mean, he's always been great as Loki. But like, when he's actually having something to do, it's actually pretty special.
But even if we're going like guest for The Mandalorian, what's his name? The fucking comedian.
Carl Weathers? Timothy Olyphant.
No.
What? You mean Bill Burr?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Carl Weathers better in the first season.
He wasn't really in the second season. He wasn't doing anything.
He was whatever. In the first season, he was kind of cool. Because he was like that shady dude. He's like, okay, listen, I got a job, okay? Like.
And then he turned into a good guy.
And then they're just all...
Which is one of your many issues with the series.
Yeah. Everyone has to be Han Solo.
Right. Evidently, the episode The Jedi was nominated for Best Production Design.
What was Best Production Design?
The Jedi, episode 13 with Ahsoka.
I didn't really see that episode. Maybe it was.
You didn't see it?
The technical shit.
The technical shit, that's understandable.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Like, it's genuinely really some great technological advances, I think. So that stuff doesn't bother me at all. And I'm not really bothered by this other shit. I think it's funny. But do I agree with that it does... I guess agree with it? No, obviously not. God damn it.
What happened?
Another spider.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
just walking on my shoulder.
How does that happen? How do they do that? Did it fall from the ceiling, or?
Maybe that does happen.
I'm honestly just looking at this to see what the writing nominations were, because I know they have a category for like outstanding writing, and God help me,
for sure got nominated. I can already tell you. If it got nominated for 50 awards, it's more likely than not that for sure writing.
Did you have any final thoughts on Loki?
It's weird that the conversation was so overly negative on Loki.
Negative or positive? Oh, our conversation.
Yeah, our conversation on Loki was so overly negative because overall, I really like Loki.
Yeah, same here.
It's one of my favorite things Marvel has ever done. It's up there. It really is. Like, genuinely, really. Even if we're going off episode 5 alone, it would be considered one of my favorite things Marvel has done. And I want to leave on that positive note because overall it was positive, right?
Right.
So I'd rather leave on that note. But Marvel does need to cool it.
And I guess like we're gonna have to wait and see ultimately like how the movies turn out, and then see what happens there. Right, I guess. Yay. That's what we want, right? A never-ending story.
But then those movies will be made up of teases for the next movies, and those next movies will be made up of teases for the movies after that, and so on and so forth.
All right. Well, that's where we are right now. I'm sorry, man. I just like this every time the Mandalorian is mentioned or there's news about it, it makes me hate it so much more. Like before, in the first season, I was kind of I was really ambivalent and then indifferent toward it. Season 2, I was like, you're really annoying. Now I'm just like full-blown hatred.
It's the hatred arc.
Basically. Did you see, though, that apparently they're doing a whole episode on how they made that Luke Skywalker cameo happen? The gallery show on Disney Plus. The behind-the-scenes show.
Yep. That's so funny, too. They didn't do a galleries for season 2, right? Which may be because of COVID, understandable. But I think it's really telling that they're now going to have a behind the scenes for how we did a cameo. Their cameos are now getting behind the scenes documentaries devoted to them. Which is, Alexis is showing me how they were in fact nominated for writing. At least that's what I assume.
Worse than what we had anticipated. It was nominated twice for writing. 2 episodes got in for
Wait, what are the
outstanding
episodes?
Writing for a drama series. One of which was The Jedi, written by Dave Filoni, which was where Ahsoka had her episode. Rosario Dawson.
Okay, whatever.
And the other one...
What was the other one?
Oh, God. Wait a minute. How many episodes were there? Oh, yeah. The season 2 finale, The Rescue, the season 2 finale was nominated for Best Outstanding Writing. The same episode that featured that Luke Skywalker cameo, but then also ended with Boba Fett ripping off Robot Chicken. That was nominated for Best Outstanding Writing at the Emmy Awards. All of you can go fuck yourselves. I am done. I quit.
The 2 Jedi episodes where they take out their lightsabers and slash things. Those are the ones that were not.
Congratulations to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau for writing those episodes. Fuck everything.
Come on and slay.
Yeah, let's get into the fucking Space Jam. Fuck everything. Let's go ahead. All right, those are our thoughts. If you don't like them, you can go fuck off. Now we're talking about Space Jam.
I would like to reiterate, I was positive about Loki. It's a good, Loki good.
I'm not pissed about Loki now. I'm pissed about something else. I'm legit fucking angry now. I'm sorry. I should not have read that.
I know. See, that's the thing. You have a real fondness for these award shows.
It's not about fondness anymore. It's not about fondness. Okay. It's about the lack of recognition to other things that are far more deserving at this point. That's really pissed me off. Like, look at all of the quote-unquote success as far as the industry is concerned that these shows are rating. And for what? For the most superficial and fake of reasons. But putting that to the side, this trash, really.
Sorry you don't like good writing. Speaking of good writing, Space Jam, directed by Joy Pitka. Get ready to jam. Swackhammer, an evil alien theme park owner, needs a new attraction to Moron Mountain. When his gang, the Nerdlucks, heads to Earth to kidnap Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes, Bugs challenges them to a basketball game to determine their fate. The aliens agree, but they steal the powers of NBA basketball players including Larry Bird and Charles Barkley, so Bugs gets some help from superstar Michael Jordan. Starring Michael Jordan as Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny as Bugs Bunny. Oh, and also Bill Murray as Bill Murray. What did you think of Space Jam? This is, okay, to set it up just a little bit, I grew up on the Jam, okay? This was my, quote unquote, my childhood. I watched Space Jam a lot. I was a Space Jam kid. So I have a real, I guess, background with the film. I have that nostalgia there. Whereas you watched it the first time. Isn't it true you watched it the first time? Yep. This past week. So it's we have very different point of views. Well, not that we have different. Well, yeah, we have different point of views coming at this film. So I'm very interested to hear, if you got your jam on, Mr. Alexis M. Soto.
I'm sorry, I'm still angry from that last segment. I'm
Oh
not.
my God.
I'm not kidding. I think I may be too angry to talk. I'm sorry. People want to drop it. I can't. I'm holding a pencil in my hand. I could break it right now in two. That's how angry I am.
This man holds grudges.
I don't like basketball. That's my review.
I mean, I clearly don't either.
I'm kidding. It reminds me of a review. What was it? There was a review, this really strange review. Was it for Haunting of Bly Manor? There was this really weird review. Was it in The Guardian where the critic was like saying that he doesn't like haunted house stories or something? What was it? And that was the reason for.
Oh yeah,
remember
that was
that?
weird. It's it's like going to a musical. I don't like musicals. 1 star, and it's like, gee, why are you reviewing this? It's so weird. But you do have a fondness for the Bugs.
I love the Looney Tunes. I did grow up with Looney Tunes. I would wager. Well, no, I can't say I can't wager. A lot of people did grow up with Looney Tunes. Cartoon Network.
To some class.
Right. Cartoon Network, I would watch the reruns, the classic, Merry Melodies or those old cartoons on repeat. These are beloved characters, and I definitely cherish them.
I just found out, and I guess this should be obvious. Merry Melody is obviously Disney. Looney Tunes is a play on that.
Is it? I'm sure it is.
Merry Melodies, Looney Tunes. That's why it's spelled with TUNES, like a music tune. So
yeah, Disney and Warner Brothers have a really interesting history of not liking each other.
Don't they?
The weirdest of history.
Let them fight.
Yeah. Like that story you posted the other day about Good Morning America only showing the bad reviews for Space Jam was really weird. Good Morning America, which is on ABC Television Network, which if you're not aware of, is owned by the Disney Corporation. And of course, Space Jam being clearly a Warner Brothers property.
Yeah, that was some petty ass shit. Right there. But yeah, go ahead. You grow up with
I love Looney Tunes. I loved in particular Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. I love that duo. And while Space Jam always eluded me, it's not as if I really went out of my way to not see it. It was born the year it was born. It was it was made. It was released in theaters the year after I was born. This really falls in the space of films that you'd think I would have grown up with, but it didn't. And I'm just going to assume the reason why is because I had a different Looney Tunes film that caught my imagination and that I would watch several times on repeat. And that would be the 2003 film Looney Tunes Back in Action, which was ripped apart by critics and then also was a box office bomb. That's the Looney Tunes film that I grew up with and that I have, I guess an appreciation for it. Not really at all with Space Jam. I have to imagine on some level the whole basketball element turned me off. Because, like with many other sports, I'm just bored to tears by it. I just can't. And, needless to say, even the basketball game in this film, I was having a hard time staying awake. I'm not going to lie. Even though it had the Looney Tunes involved, I just wasn't having any of it. And since Space Jam 2 was coming up and I was going to do a review for it, and we're doing the review here, it obviously is best. It behooves oneself, right, to go back and watch the original. Since it is a sequel, technically speaking. I mean, it is mentioned in the sequel that it is a sequel, so there is that. It wasn't good. I didn't care for the movie Space Jam in the least. It had no sway over me. It had no charm, which was weird because at several times I was thinking to myself, man, this stuff normally works on me. Like it is very much a 90s film. It's got the 90s cheese. Like it does things that normally do grab me and I go with and most people usually don't. And there's been so much hubbub over the film. It is beloved. It is a cult classic. Doesn't make it good. Honestly, several times I was thinking to myself, man, this is really abysmal. The acting, what acting? I mean, Bill.
Yeah, you don't go to this film for acting.
Bill Murray, even Bill Murray at his most Bill Murray-est couldn't grab my attention. The Looney Tunes even were kind of boring here. Honestly, I was grasping at straws. I didn't care for this movie. This is a really negative episode for me. I'm sorry, guys. It really is.
This is how you know this man just doesn't. He wasn't a 90s kid. He just wasn't. Like, I don't know.
I don't know what happened. The beginning really grabbed me. The beginning was strong. And then as it went along, it just lost me.
This film is the 90s incarnate. Okay? It's exactly what it is.
If I wanted that, I'll go watch Independence Day.
I have no pretense of calling this a good film in the traditional sense. I don't know anyone who would.
That's true.
And I admit to have quite a hefty dose of nostalgia, as I did at the beginning. And it obviously might color my feelings a bit. But I like Space Jam. It is charming to me, if it was a good film, it wouldn't work.
Okay.
The fact is that it's a bad film is the reason why it works, is the why it's so charming. It's like I said, it's literally the 90s incarnate. It's the reject boardroom of 90s movie studios come to life, right? Like, what's hot right now? The Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan. Like, that's what it is. And so much of the movie is that, and it's fucking amazing. I love Michael Jordan in this film because he sucks. He's the worst actor in the world, and it's awesome. They have a bunch of guest appearances from other basketball players that are hot at the time. And as a kid, I never watched basketball, but I knew they were famous, and I knew that's the only reason they were in the movie, and it was fucking hilarious to me. Bugs Bunny. I like the Looney Tunes stuff. The Looney Tunes stuff works for me. The reason the Looney Tunes work so well is they're all such massive assholes. And it's so funny. Like, the entire reason they have to play a basketball game is because they're like, they see these little aliens and like, they're short little fuckers. We can take them. We've never played basketball, but we know we can beat these little fucks. Like in their minds, that's what they're thinking.
They say it out loud.
Yeah. But even like, it's that thing where it's like, it's trying to be satire, but it's not, because it's literally the thing it's parodying, where it's like, you literally have Danny DeVito as this alien theme park manager that's trying to bring up sales. So he wants to kidnap the Looney Tunes into slavery. So he'll bring up his flailing amusement park. Like, it's ridiculously stupid. Like, it's so, and then like, even the third act where it's like, Bill Murray's here to save the day. Why? Because he's Bill Murray and he's hot in the 90s, right? Like, that's why he's here.
And because he's friends with the producer.
He's friends with the producer.
That's actually a line in the movie as to how they explain him getting into the Toon World. Yeah.
This is what I mean. And also they parody, not parody, but just like make fun of real life shit. Like, in real life, Michael Jordan really was like, I'm gonna quit basketball and then go play baseball, right? Yeah. And I love how this film is just like, yeah, he's a shit baseball player, but he's famous, so we're all gonna kiss his ass. And like, they make jokes about it. It's like a real life thing that happened to him, and I just think it's so funny that he allowed that.
Yeah.
It's basically making fun of his dumbass move to try and be a baseball player. The music fucking goes hard.
The soundtrack goes hard.
Space Jam. And like, I love how nothing makes sense. It's just so funny to me how nothing makes sense. The Looney Tunes, I guess, live underground.
But at the same time, they do things in that world, because there's this part of the movie where Michael Jordan's kids are watching a rerun of the Looney Tunes, but then they see in real time,
but it's
a live feed.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
I guess it can make, I don't know. Maybe. It does not make sense.
This movie is a monstrosity of epic proportions, and I love it. It's so entertaining to me. And I'll be I maybe it's just my love of Looney Tunes, but I hardly ever find instances where I'm not entertained by them.
That's true. That is true.
It's and this is the film that I'm surprised you didn't mention it. This is the film where most people say furries were born because of Lola Bunny. And that just adds another level
to the furry community,
of weirdness
but like
to
they're
it.
not top of my mind. I don't care about furries. I don't know why they're a fascination. Let them be. I have nothing to say to furries. Why would...
This is the origins of the furry community. That's all I'm saying. It's historic. Lola Bunny in this film created millions and millions, perhaps billions of furries. All because Michael Jordan wanted to play basketball with Bugs Bunny. And I'm not a fan of basketball either, but I have fun with that. It's just the Looney Tunes acting like asshole idiots for that third act, and I eat it up. And again, maybe it's this thing where Looney Tunes can do no wrong in my eyes. But I think it's great. And it's, I guess what's funny to me is despite how just cheap the Looney Tunes have become, they are the corporate whores, so to speak, of icons. More so, they've been able to they've actually been able to retain their personality, and that's something that Mickey and the gang can't say for themselves, right? Like Bugs has his personality. Daffy has I can tell you the personalities of all the Looney Tunes, and in order to become mascots, the Disney characters have kind of had to lose theirs because they're no longer characters, they're mascots. They're 3 circle logos that you stamp on Disney products and no longer characters. Like, you want to know why you don't see Disney? I mean, you don't see Mickey and the gang and anything anymore? It's because they're no longer characters. They're logos. And as much as the Looney Tunes gang whores themselves out, they are not logos.
It's impressive. The Looney Tunes have been able to stay true to themselves throughout all of history, it seems like.
They have maintained their looniness.
And at least, and I agree with you, they're entertaining in just about anything, even in things that aren't that great. But like, yeah, but also like, the Looney Tunes were always better. Like, honestly, like they're a much bigger cultural touchstone when it comes to like this animated space, because I remember a lot of those classic like Looney Tunes cartoons. I can't remember much of the Disney ones. Now, granted, the Disney ones are older, but were they ever as reverent as the Looney Tunes were?
Steamboat Willie, I guess people throw around.
It's really old.
Yeah,
that's really old. It's like 100 years old at this point.
One of the first appearances. But yeah, it could be nostalgia, but I don't think it is. It's such a it's such a beautiful train wreck of a thing. but then also it just comes around to being fun again for me. That I'm like, this is, I don't know. It's Space Jam. You want to talk about the masterful sequel? The Godfather 2 to The Godfather, if you will.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Look, Space Jam, I hold no ill will against it. I didn't like it at all. And I was expecting it to, and I just didn't.
Okay.
Maybe I was in a bad mood.
Not everyone can have
a
refined palate.
Sure.
All right. Space Jam, A New Legacy. Directed by Malcolm D. Lee. Welcome to the Jam. When LeBron and his young son Dom.
That's his name.
I know, I just thought of Fast and Furious. I'm just imagining it's all about family. When LeBron and his young son Dom are trapped in a digital space by a rogue AI, LeBron must get them home safe by leading Bugs, Lola Bunny, and the whole gang of notoriously undisciplined Looney Tunes to victory over the AI's digitized champions on the court. It's Tunes versus Goons and the highest stakes challenge of his life. Starring LeBron James, Don Cheadle, and Bugs Bunny as Bugs Bunny. Now, we don't have different point of views coming at this.
We don't?
Because we both because we both just saw this.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I have nostalgia for Space Jam. I don't have nostalgia for Space Jam: A New Legacy. So let's see where that leaves us here.
Yeah, because it's funny because my prediction is we might
Soto.
have to. I think we might disagree a lot on this. Really? Well, maybe not a lot, but maybe on certain things. Man, was I dreading watching this. Everything leading up to it just looked terrible.
Disgusting.
Like the trailers for this movie was like if somebody I don't know, smushed Ralph Breaks the Internet and Ready Player One together to see what would happen. Because like those films were films, but in particular the trailers for those films had a very similar feeling to what the trailers for this one, Space Jam 2 New Legacy, was because of how much corporate intellectual properties synergy was just thrown in your face, and it obviously is much, but in particular with the Space Jam 2 A New Legacy trailers, unlike the other two, the Warner Brothers made some very interesting choices when it came to which intellectual properties to like haul out here. There was a mixture of a mixture of contradictions, because Pepe Le Pew, who is a problematic character with the Looney Tunes, he was omitted from the film. And yet, ironically enough, they have the rapists from A Clockwork Orange featured prominently in several instances. They have courtside seats here at the Space Jam.
Front row courtside seats for the Jam. Okay. They're not in space.
No.
It's not a space
But it wasn't
jam.
in space in the first movie either. They came from space.
It was aliens. There was a space jam, okay? Here, it's a computer jam. I don't know.
No, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we know why it's called Space Jam.
I'm already poking plot holes.
We know why it's called Space Jam. To attract attention and get money made. So that was that. And then when they started releasing clips of the film, whew, did it really get worse? The rapping Notorious P.I.G. Porky Pig, that when that was released about a week and a half ago, it honestly made me lose all hope in the movie.
There should be a federal law that does not allow animated creatures to rap in films.
There should be.
It's never worked. It has never worked once. It is always the most gut-wrenchingly cringy thing ever. Every time. But that in particular,
that easily one of the worst I've seen. Even in that, it takes the cake. And I mean, there is some pretty healthy competition in that regard. Look at what Tom and Jerry did earlier this year with that opening sequence of the rapping pigeons. Remember that?
Yeah. It never works. And it always tells me you have the worst writers. And is there just one Hollywood writer since like the early 2000s has just been like, my sole job is to add rapping to live action cartoon films. I add the rapping scenes. There's the rapping script doctor.
Basically, like there are parts of Tom and Jerry and then this movie Space Jam 2 that feel like a relic from the 2000s era. Like, what are we like? It's like a time warp almost seeing it. So that was bad. And then I saw the original Space Jam, and that completely just like let the air out of the balloon as far as like, because I'm sorry, man, I didn't care for the movie. I honestly didn't enjoy watching it. Like, I honestly forgot most of the movie already. So, literally everything before the fact just, like, made me feel like there was no reason to watch the film. And honestly, it came down to the point where I needed to watch it because I was getting paid for it. So, I saw it. And it's not great, Peter. It's not great. It's not a great movie. It's really not. It's so weird because it almost felt like the same movie. Like literally beat for beat. It's the same movie as Space Jam. And like, I'm not crazy about this film. Do not misunderstand me. But I would only say that there were things in the sequel that caught my attention. Like, I'll say this. The fact that the basketball game in the third act was like a loony basketball game and not a traditional basketball game.
Oh, no.
But wait a minute, I'm not done yet.
The original Space Jam had a loony basketball game.
I forgot.
It was very fucking loony.
I forgot it.
Oh my god.
Well, you know what?
Audio
if that's the case, then I'll rescind that as a compliment toward the film. We'll rescind it if that's the case. I just forgot about it. Okay. Maybe because it wasn't whatever. Honestly, there are some things that maybe are a little bit of an improvement. There are some things that are worse. And ultimately, it lands in the same space as the first one does. See what I did there? Actually, there are some things I loved. One thing I loved in particular. The best thing in Space Jam 2: A New Legacy is the beautiful 2D animation.
Wasn't that nice?
And how gorgeous the Looney Tunes looked before, and then, because like I'm telling you, it didn't look that bad in the trailer. The 3-dimensional versions.
Oh, I thought
it didn't look that bad to me, but it looked really bad in the film in sequence, especially coming off when they were appearing in their like 2D animated forms. Like they looked, it just lost all life for me when they converted over to the 3D. And I'm like, why couldn't you just stay where you were? It looked beautiful. It just like, can't we just have a 2D animated film back on the big screen again? Look how good it looked here. And then we get what we got. LeBron James is almost as bad as Michael Jordan was, but not in an interesting way, as I guess you would put it, as Michael Jordan was here.
You know what the thing is? LeBron James is trying.
I know.
Michael Jordan wasn't trying,
and that's what makes it sad too. It makes it sad to watch because every scene he's in, he's trying, and everyone's like acting leaps and bounds above him. Like, and they're not even trying. Like, Sonequa Martin Green is in this, and she's a great actor, and she's been in a lot of things like Star Trek and Walking Dead and others. And like, man, like, there was even a scene, weirdly enough, where like Sarah Silverman and Steven Yeun were there, and LeBron's like, I'm like, man, like I feel bad saying this, but like, it wasn't good, and it
Did you notice how 90% of his lines were, all right, we got to win this game so I can get my son back.
Like it was...
He kept repeating that.
Because that's all it was. It's all it was. He couldn't convey anything. Like he couldn't convey anything as far as his facial expressions were concerned. In moments where he should have done so. It's like, it was... Me saying it's not a good performance is me being overly generous. It wasn't. It was quite poor. Literally all the way throughout. I guess it got better when it was animated LeBron. Obviously, because you had an animated version of him that could actually maybe react to things. But nah, man, it was bad. I like Don Cheadle in this. I'm not gonna lie. It was cool to see him do something new and different. And as far as the performance in and of itself, I feel like Don Cheadle went for it, and I appreciated that. I guess I talked to Kyle about this. He wasn't crazy about it. I really liked the segment where they were like hunting down all the Looney Tunes. It reminded me of the Muppets movie, not the 1970s one, but the 2011 one, where they're on a road trip and they're like getting all the Muppets together to get, the gang back and everything. And this is the part that has come with a lot of controversy because not the Muppets, but the Looney Tunes have been, because they're in the Warner Brothers sphere, in the computer, they've been, I guess, plucked into different intellectual properties of Warner Brothers. And I'm not saying all of them worked. Some actually were kind of sad, like the weird pairing of Granny and Speedy in the Matrix.
That's the thing. Some of them made sense, right? Like,
dude,
the Roadrunner.
I was laughing so hard when I saw Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner in fucking Mad Max. That was...
But that one makes sense. I'm like, for sure. I can see that. The other one's not so much.
Sylvester Stallone, not so. Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester's the fucking cat. Which one is Which one is not Elmer Fudd? The other one with the beard. Yosemite Sam. Yosemite Sam was in Casablanca. Sam. What?
Yeah.
That made no sense. Elmer Fudd, though, I guess maybe a little bit more with Dr. Evil, because of the bald head and everything.
But you should have had Yosemite in like an old Western.
Yeah.
Pick your most classic old Western and throw him in that. You know what I think it was? That was where they were supposed to get what's his name? The fucking skunk.
Pepe Le Pew?
Pepe Le Pew. That was where they were supposed to get Pepe Le Pew, but it got cut at the last minute, and they're like, fuck, who do we replace him with? And they just randomly replaced him with Yosemite Sam. Pepe Le Pew would have made sense, for sure.
A lot of sense, actually.
That's why.
Huh. So they took that out, but they kept the rapists from Clockwork Orange in. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess my overall impressions of the film were I had some semblance of fun, but I'll probably never watch this again. It has a lot of the similar problems that the first film had. Some were worse. Some things maybe were handled better, but ultimately, I don't care. It could be fun for people. The only reason for me to watch this is that beautiful 2D animation. And that was that.
This.
By the way, I should have made it clear. My expectations were very, very, very low.
I know.
So if I come off as kind, I blame that.
That is why. Mm-hmm. This film feels like it was concocted in a bottle for me specifically to hate.
Wait, right? So like Ready Player One and Ralph Breaks the Internet? Okay.
Yes. I like this film infinitely better than those two films. 100%.
Ralph Breaks the Internet is an actual good film. Like, it is an actual okay film, which makes it the most boring thing you could be. It is a boring commercial. This is a batshit insane commercial. Okay? And I feel, and I said this to you, this is a perfect sequel to Space Jam because it encapsulates everything the original Space Jam was in the 90s. This film encapsulates that perfectly in the year 2021. I agree with that.
It is a cocaine-fueled executive meeting gone wild at a movie studio, thrown on the big screen. That's what the original Space Jam was, and that's what this is. And on some level, I kind of respect it. It is so blatant and so over the top. And what I love is it's unlike stuff like Disney. It is not. It is so no holds bar in your face and insane with a lot of the choices in this film. A supposed kids film makes references to Austin Powers,
Casablanca, Mad Max Fury Road, A Clockwork Orange,
Mad Max,
Rick and Morty. That's right. Rick and Morty, like literally, stop by.
Rick and Morty stop by to throw the Tasmanian Devil at LeBron James and Bugs Bunny. And then peace out. Like, fucking insane. Ridiculously stupid Coke fueled.
Hey,
okay, guys, this is what we're gonna do.
I'd be lying if I say I didn't enjoy it, though. It was a lot of fun. It was stupid and shitty and crazy, but it worked somehow, though.
When I saw I forget that chicken's name.
Foghorn Leghorn?
Foghorn Leghorn. Riding a dragon, saying, well, winter is coming. Oh my god, you're right,
I forgot about that.
I wanted to die. It was so awful. I loved it. Like...
yeah.
Insane.
It's insane.
Insane. This is awful, but it's awful in ways that just tickle my funny bone. It tickles your fancy so much. It really does. It yes, but it tickles my fancy. Like if you want an example of, I think, something like this done well, I would say Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Yes.
I really enjoy Looney Tunes Back in Action. I think it is that sort of corporate synergies thing. Looney Tunes live action with here, but that's where it's like, unironically, I think it's done well. And there's fun little corporate stuff there too, where and I guess because it came out around the same time, you had the cartoon Shaggy like arguing with Matthew Lillard, and he's like, "Why did you play me like that in the movie?" And like Matthew Lillard is like apologizing to him. But yeah, there's like scenes where, you know, you have the cartoon Shaggy arguing with Matthew Lillard about how he played him in the movie, and they have connections to Batman. There's all that stuff, right? But that's an example of where I think it's done really well, right? And I have a lot of fun with it. Again, not the best movie in the world, but if you want to talk about corporate synergy, Looney Tunes live action, fuck me. That's the film that works, right? That actually works. But if we were talking, I guess, so bad it's good, and just like this sort of looking into the void of corporate synergy nightmare, you can't get any better than these Space Jam films. You just can't. They're so much fun in that way. I don't know what to tell you. They're just so funny to me. All the shit that happens at them. It's even the fact that it's LeBron James and Bugs Bunny, who were the reason why Space Jam happened in 1996, was because that was the height of the popularity of you know, Michael Jackson, not Jackson, Jordan, and well, Jackson was actually pretty popping off then too, and Bugs Bunny. LeBron James isn't as big. He's big, but he's not as big as Michael Jordan was at that time. And the Looney Tunes, like, people know the Looney Tunes, but they're clearly not as big as they were in the 90s. But it's nostalgia, right? So the very fact that this film even exists is kind of commentary within itself, and it like flows into itself in that kind of way that I don't know what to tell you. It just works in that nightmare way.
Those are the parts of the film that actually made me feel like this is so crazy, but I love it, weirdly enough. You know? And a lot of people really hate it, though. A lot of the conversation around the film are the very things that you're talking about are the worst part of it, and why it sucks and why it's evil. There's been a lot of weird articles that have come out in the last week that are like saying it's an affront to morality or something, or it really strange and out there things. But I think the what worked best in the film are the really weird and like crazy bullshit you'd never thought you'd like. Foghorn Leghorn as fucking Daenerys on a dragon, like saying winter is a coming. Who thinks of things like that? Like, how do you not appreciate just the bullshit of it? But the humor in it, though?
The show with explicit sex and violence and cursing that no 5-year-old watching Space Jam and New Legacy should know about is like this huge reference within the film, and it's so funny. Even like we talked about at the end, how they become CG monstrosities. The Looney Tunes even sort of admit that, right? They're like, "What did you do? We're hideous." But they still do it.
Yeah.
Right? It is like they almost want to admit they know they are this disgusting monstrosity, but then they are also shamelessly embrace being that ugly monstrosity.
What purpose did that serve? I know it's like it's the theme, or not the theme, but it's the trend these days to do, you know, these 2D classic cartoons in 3D, but like the first Space Jam, they were in 2D.
But that's literally it. That's all it was. Cause the algae rhythm says that modern cartoon, live action hybrids need to be in CG. So they were.
I just what is it going to take for movie executives to recognize nobody likes this?
It made money.
So did Tom and Jerry, hilariously enough.
Yeah.
What does that say?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, maybe I'm just a Looney Tunes bitch, but I enjoyed all the stuff with the Looney Tunes. I liked all the cartoons in the beginning where Bugs is just kind of losing his fucking mind because he's left.
There's a cameo of Marvin the Martian. I'm like, Marvin the Martian, I haven't seen you in forever. It was nice to see that again.
Even when they went to
that was
DC
fun
World. Too. And again, I like the animation. I was like, seeing the TV, the old Justice League in beautiful movie quality animation, but that same style.
Lola Bunny and Themyscira.
That was well done animation, the way it was a comic book. And Rosario Dawson was a better Wonder Woman in 5 seconds than we've had ever. Not to poke at anyone, but yeah. Or is it? I was like, oh wow, she's neat. This is Wonder Woman. All the animated stuff worked for me and was fun. The fact that Daffy Duck is literally kidnapping and creating crises so he can come in and save it
makes
in DC
all
world
the sense in the world with his character.
Yeah, it's fun. So yeah, I don't know what's the tunes. It doesn't matter how bad it is, for whatever reason they always work on me. They just do. And so it's weird. It's this cross between this nightmare film that's looking into the void, or the eyes of emptiness. I don't know, I'm sure what your brain would feel like gazing upon Cthulhu. Right? That's some of the film. And then the other film is oh, this stuff's kind of neat. I like it. Right? With the cartoon. Because, yeah, you know what? It is good to see 2D in a film. Maybe that's the low in a film made for movie theaters. Maybe that's the lowest standard ever, but I don't know what to tell you. It sucks that it is, but it's there. So it ends up being a film like the first Space Jam, where it's this hilarious nightmare combined with stuff that's hey, I did like this, actually. Where I'm it's entertaining to me.
Honestly, I was entertained. I don't...
Mm-hmm. If you're... And this is... I'm sorry, I have more respect for it than a lot of Disney shit and a lot of other stuff. If you're just going to be a shameless commercial, be a batshit insane commercial that will have me entertained the whole time. Like I said, just the mind fuck of okay, we're with LeBron James and Bugs Bunny and Mad Max Fury Road. And now Rick and Morty,
the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo,
and oh my god! And it had some of my favorite shit ever in kids movies, where it's people that have no idea how computers or video games are made, and they try to talk about that shit. The son he's a
right.
He's a programmer. He makes video games, but he has this magical device attached to his phone that like perfectly scans people, and then they come out and then they just pop up on the computer as video game characters and stuff like that. Like it's not even technology anymore, it's just magic. That shit is always so funny to me, and it's here again where it's like, okay, I don't know.
What didn't work for you in the movie?
Like, seriously didn't work? As
it didn't land
not
with you
even
in a good way.
Are you saying didn't land with me in an entertaining way?
Sure.
I think that's a better way of putting it. Okay. I think it takes a little too long to get to the quote-unquote serververse. This film doesn't need to be 2 hours. Again, I don't care how batshit insane you make it. It's still a commercial. And commercials at most should be a couple minutes. It's already stretched out to a full-length film. The least you can do is not make it a long film. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This should be like an hour 30 tops. You know, shorten that shit. Like everything in the beginning, it just took too long to get going. That's a big one, right? Like just bring it down. I don't know. See, I can't even say this is negative because I just think it's so fucking funny. Bugs Bunny dies.
That was weird.
And then at the end of the film, he's just like, I'm back. And then it's like, how? He's like, you know, us Toons, we live through shit.
It's almost...
It's like, no, fucking seriously,
like,
how? Like,
the movie we were talking about last week in Black Widow, where Natasha Romanoff seemingly gets arrested, but then she escapes, and I guess no one cares why. She's just free, and now she's off.
I guess she did it. I guess she's, yeah. But here, it works because it's just one more layer of stupidity that just makes me laugh so funny. And it's like, I guess you're here, and you're in the real world, and okay. I'm trying to think of things where it's just like, it's not even entertaining. Like, this is just
LeBron.
Stop. Yeah. LeBron, the thing with LeBron is the rest of the film is so good because it's not trying. That's what makes it so interesting to me. Like, they didn't try to be clever with their bullshit. They just laid it on the table and said bottoms up. And just the blatant way it's done is just like, I can't help but respect it. But with like LeBron's actually trying, and it's like he needed some of that like Michael Jordan deadpanness. He's like, but I'm a baseball player. And it's like, oh god, because that's also the thing that's a lot funnier to me too, is these what's the word, athletes. They just plop them in front of a camera and say go, and they're just not actors. Like, that stuff is funny to me. Even and the thing is, these basketball players, and I'm including the other ones too, they are better actors than the original ones, but they're not good actors. So it kind of just leaves it in a weird place where it's just like, I wish you were a lot worse. You know, I want some really weird, shitty delivery. That's what I want out of my Space Jam. But here it wasn't weird and shitty. It was just bad. Yeah. You know,
I get you.
Also, this is a big one for me, I have to say. Because if you know me, you know I care about the lore. And at the end of the original Space Jam, the Nerdlucks joined the Looney Tunes. They became Looney Tunes themselves. And in this film, they are cheering against the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
They have destroyed the lore, and that is unforgivable. You can make a corporate monster of a film, but if you disrespect my nerd lore that I 100% shouldn't care about...
Well, if you're talking about inconsistencies, right? Hilariously enough, there are, I think, Lola and Bugs at several points... Not even that, them, all of them. Even there was a scene where they thought they were going to get Michael Jordan to come back, which, let's put a pin in that real quick. But they all acknowledge that, okay, well, Lola says, been there, done that about, like, you know, teaming with an NBA star to go, you know, save, whatever. Sylvester makes this thing where, like, well, it's been 25 years. I mean... That was kind of a racist joke, I think. I don't know. Not racist in like a bad way, but like basically saying Michael Jordan and LeBron James looked. Okay, no, Michael Jordan and okay, yeah,
Michael B. Jordan. Well, he said like I thought he aged gracefully or something like that.
That was hilarious because they got me. I thought like Michael Jordan was actually going to come in, and then it was Michael B. Jordan. Why didn't he come back?
That one,
it is stupid.
I like that. It's such a stupid, obvious gag, but it's just okay. Oh, that's another thing too. I wanted the cameos to be more weird, because you had some, you know, of course you're gonna have your A-list cameos, but I love because it's like, Bill Murray. Why the fuck is Bill Murray here? Wait, in what kind of world connection does he have to Michael B. Jordan, right? But that's what made it so much more funny to me. And here, the connections are much more obvious, where it's like, okay, yeah, he's... Obviously, this person would be friends with LeBron James and stuff. And I wanted some real left curves in there as far as celebrity cameos.
Yeah. You know what I mean. Well, I mean... It's about connectivity issues. Well, like in the first film, the Looney Tunes live in the real world, but just underground. But here, I guess they've become digitized and they've lived as computer programs in a computer. What?
I just came up with it. Cyberspace Jam.
Cyber - Space Jam.
Right there. Yes. It's perfect.
Instead we get Space Jam 2, A New Legacy.
Goddamn. Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, both Space Jam and... I will say, I think as a film... If you even want to give that metric, the original feels more like it's a film, whereas this one doesn't. You can take that as a positive or a negative, but I'll throw that out there. I legitimately have love for the original Space Jam, and this one I don't know if I have love with it, but it as you said, tickled my fancy in the worst ways possible, but it did. I was entertained. Again, these are terrible films.
The point,
but that's the charm to me. That's the point. I don't want to see a good film called Space Jam. Get that shit out of here. That's not the point.
I agree. I had fun. Hopefully you will too. if you watch it. It's on HBO Max. I was just thankful I wasn't in a theater watching that Porky Pig scene, which was awful.
Oh, God. Yeah, no. Like I said, there really needs to be a law against rapping animated creatures. Because it kills a piece of me every time I see it.
That was bad. Okay, well, if we're done, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all so much for listening today. We'll be back next week with more reviews. This will be with Fear Street, 1994, 1978, and 1666. Stay tuned for much more here on Red Spotlight. Stay under our spotlight, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.